So there I was, Jack Reeves, sitting in what had to be the galaxy's most pretentious waiting room, wondering how my life had led to this particular brand of humiliation. 20 years of diplomatic service, 3 failed marriages, and somehow I'd drawn the short straw for humanity's big audition with the Galactic Council. Lucky me. The chamber was massive, all crystalline architecture and floating platforms, designed specifically to make you feel small. Which, to be fair, I was. The council had 47 member species, and apparently every single one of them had evolved past the need for comfortable seating. My chair was essentially a glorified rock. High Arbiter Velcrum floated into view, all 6 arms spread in what I am sure he thought was a welcoming gesture, but really just looked like he was trying to hug the world's most uncomfortable beach ball. He had purple skin, nobisibly no, and the kind of expression that screamed, "I'm about to speak very slowly because I assume you're an idiot." "Human Jack Reeves," he began, somehow making my name sound like a mild insult. "We of the Galactic Council have reviewed your species application for membership. Your technological progress is ... adequate. Your cultural development is ... quaint. However, we must conduct our standard evaluation before rendering judgment." I'd read about this. Every species got scanned some kind of consciousness probe that measured evolutionary development, societal cohesion, and probably your preference in breakfast cereals for all I knew. No big deal. Just another hoop to jump through. Like that time, I had to get a background check to coach Little League. Except this time, it was for the entire human race. The consciousness evaluation will allow us to understand your species' collective wisdom, your capacity for peace, and your worthiness to join our enlightened assembly. Velcrum continued, his voice dripping with the kind of condescension usually reserved for explaining gravity to toddlers. Around the chamber, other council members watched with varying degrees of interest. Most looked bored. A few looked vaguely hostile. One species, I think they were called the Zenti, literally had their ambassador asleep, all 7 of their heads snoring in harmony. "Sounds great," I said, forcing a smile. "Let's get this over with." The only alien who seemed remotely sympathetic was Ambassador Kess, a reptilian diplomat with emerald scales and surprisingly kind eyes. She'd been humanity's advocate throughout this process, which meant she'd spend 6 months explaining to the council that yes, humans wore clothes, and no, that wasn't weird. She leaned forward from her platform. "Juck, the scan is completely safe. It simply creates a neural link to access your species' collective consciousness. Think of it as a very thorough background check. Like my divorce lawyer did," I muttered. "What was that?" Velcrum asked. "I said that sounds delightful. Let's do this." A small alien technician, Correal, according to his name badge, scurried forward with what looked like a crown made of liquid metal and anxiety. He had 4 eyes, each blinking independently, and the nervous energy of someone who'd definitely been yelled at earlier today. "Pleased to be placing this on your head." "Human, sir!" Correal squeaked, his translator giving him a pitch that suggested he gargled helium for breakfast. "Is completely safe. Mostly. Usually. Pleased to be signing waiver first." I skimmed the waiver. Standard stuff. Not responsible for psychological damage, memory loss, spontaneous combustion, or temporary belief that you're a potted plant. Galactic bureaucracy at its finest. "One question," I said, pen hovering over the signature line. "What happens to the data you collect?" Velcrum waved a dismissive hand. "It is analyzed by our systems and then purged. Standard protocol. We respect all species privacy." That should have been my first clue that things were about to go sideways. In my experience, anytime someone says standard protocol with that much confidence, they're about to discover that protocols are really more like gentle suggestions. I signed the waiver. Curel placed the crown on my head. It felt like cold jelly sliding across my scalp, which was exactly as pleasant as it sounds. "Beginning scan in 3, 2, 1, Curel announced, his 4 eyes all focused on a holographic display that erupted with data. The last thing I remember thinking before the scan started was, well, At least this can't be worse than my divorce. Spoiler alert. I was wrong. The machine hummed to life with the kind of ominous frequency that in movies usually precedes someone screaming, "Shut it down." I felt it tingle, like my brain had suddenly discovered it was being read, like a particularly violent library. Kirill stared at his display, all four eyes widening in what I can only describe as geometrically increasing horror. Oh no, what is it? Velcrum demanded, floating closer to examine the readout. The holographic display began projecting images into the center of the chamber. At first, it was innocuous stuff: humans, farming, building cities, inventing the wheel. The council members nodded approvingly. See? We could do civilization. We were practically adorable. Then the display hit the Bronze Age, and things got spicy. Suddenly the chamber was filled with images of human warfare, not just fighting strategic, calculated, absolutely ruthless warfare. The Battle of Thermopylae. The Mongol conquests, trench warfare. Blitzkrieg, nuclear deterrence theory, complete with yield calculations and casualty projections. "Why are there so many battles?" asked a council member who looked like a 6-foot-tall seahorse. "Why do you keep fighting yourselves?" "Practice," I said helpfully. The scan continued, diving deeper into humanity's collective consciousness. And hear us, the thing about a species-wide consciousness scan. It doesn't just show what you know. It shows how you think. The strategic frameworks, the tactical innovations, the absolute mountain of creative violence humans have dreamed up over millennia. One display showed the evolution of human weapons technology, from sharpened sticks to intercontinental ballistic missiles, with a timeline that made it look like we'd speedrun the tech tree while everyone else was still figuring out bronze. Another showed game theory, prisoners' dilemmas, Nash equilibriums, and the concept of mutually assured destruction, helpfully labeled "mad" with a smiley face. Emoji some human had apparently added to the collective consciousness, because we were nothing if not committed to the bit. Velcrum's purple skin was turning an impressive shade of lavender. This is extensive. Surely this is historical. You have evolved past such. The display cut to modern special forces training, cyber warfare tactics, and something called meme warfare that I didn't fully understand but made 3 council members immediately disconnect from the feed. Technician, Kurile Velcrum said slowly, "Please tell me this data is contained to the scanning chamber." Kurile's 4 eyes somehow managed to look in 4 different directions simultaneously, which I'm pretty sure was his species' equivalent of a panic attack. Well, funny story. I arbiter. The scan, it is not. How do I say one-directional? What does that mean? Kess asked, her tail starting to twitch in what I was learning was reptilian anxiety. It means, I said, the realization dawning on me with the beautiful clarity of watching someone else's mistake, that while you were scanning us, we were scanning you. The chamber went silent. You could have heard a pin drop if pins made any sound in zero gravity. "Impossible," Velcrum said. "The technology doesn't work that way. The scan only flows one direction, from subject to observer. That's how it's designed." I pulled out my phone because, yes, I'd brought my phone to the Galactic Council. I wasn't raising a bar, Nan. Checked my messages. 17 new texts from Earth. I opened the latest one from Director Hayes, my boss. "Jack, tell me you didn't just upload the entire Galactic Council's tactical databases to our servers." I looked up at So, funny story about human technology. We're really, really good at hacking things. "We didn't hack anything," Kirill protested. "Is impossible to hack the consciousness scan? Is using quantum encrypted neural pathways with 7-dimensional security protocols." "Yeah," I said, scrolling through my messages. "About that? We broke quantum encryption 2 years ago. Didn't tell anyone because, seemed rude. Plus we wanted to see what you guys were saying about us in your private channels. Did you know there's a betting pool on how long until we blow ourselves up?" I found that kind of offensive. The display suddenly shifted, now showing detailed schematics of Galactic Council defense systems. Fleet positions, homeworld locations, political structures, economic weak points, and what appeared to be Velcrum-S personal shopping history. "Why do you have 73 decorative vases?" I asked. "That seems excessive." Velcrum made a sound like a balloon deflating. "This is a catastrophic security breach. This is ... This is ... double quotes. An act of war," suggested General Thrax. A massive insectoid alien who'd been silent until now. He looked like a praying mantis, had a baby with a tank, and his voice sounded like gravel being crushed. "The humans now possess complete intelligence on every council species. Battle tactics, weakness points, technological specifications. To be fair," I said, "we already had most of that. This just filled in the gaps. You guys really need better firewalls. We've been in your system since the first probe you sent to Earth in 1947. Yeah, that wasn't a crash landing. We shot it down, reverse engineered it, and planted monitoring software in the wreckage before you recovered it." The seahorse alien looked like it might faint. Kess had her face in her hands. Corell was frantically pushing buttons, trying to shut down the scan, but the data just kept flowing. And there, in the middle of the most powerful governing body in the galaxy, I finally understood what we'd done. We hadn't just passed their tests. We'd accidentally shown them exactly how dangerous humanity really was. The best part, we hadn't even been trying. Corell was having what I can only describe as a four-eyed meltdown. His fingers flew across holographic controls, each motion more frantic than the last. His not stopping. The connection, it becomes stronger. Human data systems, they are pulling everything. "Pull the plug," Velcrum shouted, all 6 arms gesticulating wildly. "Disconnect the human. Shut down the entire scanner array if you must." I am trying. The human technology, it is how do it. It grabs hold and does not let go. I couldn't help myself. We prefer the term persistent. The chamber had descended into what could only be described as organized chaos. Council members were shouting in 17 different languages, which my translator was gamely trying to keep up with. The general sentiment seemed to be variations of, "Oh no, we're all going to die." And whose idea was this again? Ambassador Kess slithered down from her platform and approached me with the careful energy of someone approaching a landmine. "Jack, please tell me you can stop this. Tell me Earth hasn't just stolen classified information from every member species of the Galactic Council." I checked my phone again. New message from Hayes. "Stop checking your phone and tell them we LL. Give most of it back. Maybe. Depending on what we find." "Define stolen," I said. "Taken without permission?" Velcrum roared, his voice hitting frequencies I didn't know existed. "Illegally accessed. Acquired through deception." "See? That's where it gets fuzzy," I said, standing up. The crown thing was still on my head, still pulsing with that cold jelly feeling. "You invited us here. You put this thing on my head. You initiated a scan of human consciousness without really understanding what human consciousness was connected to. That's not theft. That's aggressive networking." A crystalline being who I think was called the Luminar representative made a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. "This is unprecedented. Unacceptable. We demand immediate deletion of all acquired data." "Yeah, about that," I said, pulling up my phone's browser. "How exactly do you delete something from the internet?" Silence. Beautiful, terrified silence. "You do not have a centralized data core?" asked General Thrax, his mandibles clicking in what might have been concern. "Oh, we have several, about 40,000 of them, spread across the planet, plus city, plus moon bases you didn't know we had, plus some servers we parked in the asteroid belt just for fun. And before you ask, no, they're not connected to any system you can access. We learned that lesson from you guys." Kess's tail was now twitching so fast it was practically a blur. "Jack, you have to understand how this looks. From our perspective, Humanity's just conducted the most successful intelligence operation in galactic history. Every secret, every weakness, every tactical doctrine, it's all in your databases now. I understand completely, I said. Must be very unsettling. Unsettling? Velcrum was now a shade of purple. I'm pretty sure wasn't medically healthy. This is an existential threat. You could destroy any of us. All of us. Could we, though? I mused, scratching my chin. I mean, hypothetically, yes, if we wanted to, which we don't. Probably. Several council members shouted in unison. General Thrax descended from his platform, his massive form casting a shadow over me. Up close, he was even more intimidating, all chitinous armor and cold, calculating eyes. Human Jack Reeves, let me ensure I understand the situation. Your species now possesses complete military intelligence on every council member species. You know our homeworld locations, our defense grids, our political structures and vulnerabilities. You have access to centuries of tactical data. Yes, that's the gist of it. Yeah. And what does humanity intend to do with this information? I looked around the chamber. 47 species, all staring at me with expressions ranging from terror to resignation. Kes looked like she regretted every life choice that had led to this moment. Curel had given up on the controls and was just quietly sobbing in the corner. Honestly, we hadn't really thought that far ahead. We were just excited about the council membership. You expect US to grant you membership after this? Velcrum looked like he might achieve a new color of purple previously unknown to science. Well, yeah, I said. I mean, what's your alternative? You can't attack us. We know all your tactics and defenses. You can't ignore us. We are not going away. You can't even blacklist us because we're already in your systems. From where I'm standing, we've kind of earned a membership. Through initiative and resourcefulness, the Luminar made that wind chime sound again. This is blackmail. This is networking, I corrected. Aggressive networking. Kes finally spoke up, her voice remarkably calm considering the circumstances. The Kryn were granted provisional membership, and we monitored them for 3 centuries. Velcrum finished bitterly. Yes, I am aware of the precedent. That was different. The Kryn gained access to one database. One. Not every database. Not every secret. Not the complete compiled knowledge of galactic civilization. So we overachieved, I said with a shrug. That's kind of our thing. General Thrax made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. Overachieved. Yes. That is one way to describe it. Tell me, human, in your species' history, how many times have you domesticated other predators? Several. Wolves became dogs. We've got cats, though jury's out on who domesticated who there. Some people keep bears as pets, but that's frowned upon. Why? Because, Thrax said slowly, that is what you have just done to us. You have turned the galaxy's most powerful governing body into your unwitting allies. We cannot oppose you without risking everything. We cannot trust you. But we must work with you. You have domesticated the Galactic Council. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Velcrum said very quietly, someone fetched the membership contracts. The long ones, with all the clauses. The council had called for a 30-minute recess, which in galactic bureaucracy time meant about 4 hours. I spent it in the side chamber drinking something that tasted like orange juice, mixed with regret while Kes paced back and forth, her tail leaving scratch marks on the crystalline floor. Do you understand what you've done? She asked for the 7th time. Committed aggressive networking. I offered. You've terrified the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. To be fair, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to sit quietly, pass your test, and maybe get some trade agreements. This is just a bonus. Before Kes could respond, the door opened and General Thrax entered, ducking his massive frame under the doorway. Behind him came 3 other aliens I didn't recognize, all wearing what were clearly military uniforms. Human Jack Reeves, Thrax said formally. I am required to conduct a threat assessment. This is standard protocol when a species displays unexpected capabilities. More protocols, I muttered. Great. Thrax pulled up a holographic display. Let us review what we now know about humanity. Your species achieved spaceflight in less than 12,000 years from your first permanent settlements. That is 30% faster than the galactic average. We're impatient, I said. You have fought over 2,000 major conflicts with yourselves. For context, most species fight perhaps 50. But for achieving global unity, we really enjoy a good argument. You have developed 47 different styles of martial combat, 16 distinct strategic doctrines, and somehow created something called nuclear deterrence theory, which is predicated on the idea that the best way to prevent war is to make war so destructive that everyone loses. Yeah, we call that MAD, mutually assured destruction. It's worked pretty well so far. One of the military aliens, a floating jellyfish creature with way too many tentacles, pulsed a bioluminescent pattern that my translator rendered as, "This is insane." They are insane. How did they not exterminate themselves? We came close a few times, I admitted. But we're also really stubborn. Spite is a powerful motivator. Thrax pulled up another display. Your information networks. This internet contains more data than the entire Council archives. And according to the scan, a significant portion of it is devoted to entertainment, arguments, and images of small domesticated predators. Cat videos? I said proudly. Humanity's greatest cultural achievement. But also, Thrax continued, his tone darkening. Detailed guides on everything from lockpicking to explosives manufacture, chemical formulas, biological agents, nuclear physics, all available to any human with a search engine. Yeah, we don't really believe in gatekeeping information. Why not? The jellyfish alien pulsed so hard I needed sunglasses. Because keeping people stupid doesn't keep them safe. It just keeps them stupid. We figured that out the hard way. Thrax closed that display and opened another one. This one showed a timeline. Based on the data we've collected, humanity has been observing the Galactic Council for 78 years. You've monitored our communications, studied our languages, mapped our territories, all while pretending to be an isolated, pre-contact civilization. That's actually accurate, yes? Kes stopped pacing. Jack, you told us first contact was 20 years ago, when our scout ship entered your solar system. First official contact, I corrected. We'd been watching you guys for decades before that. We just waited to introduce ourselves until we'd figured out the basics. Languages, customs, who hated who, standard stuff. You don't walk into a party without knowing the room. This is horrifying, one of the military aliens said. This is smart, Thrax countered. Humanity exhibited patience, strategic thinking. They gathered intelligence before revealing themselves. These are the actions of an apex predator. We prefer cautiously optimistic, but sure, apex predator works. The general pulled up one more display. This one showed projections models of human expansion, economic integration, military capabilities. The numbers were ... concerning. Our analysts have run scenarios. If humanity decides to expand militarily, they could conquer 17 council member species within a decade, 23 within a century. But we won't, I said quickly. How can we know that? Because conquering people is expensive, morally dubious, and honestly sounds like a lot of paperwork. We'd much rather trade with you. Sell you our stuff. Buy your stuff. Everyone profits. Way easier. But you could, Thrax pressed. That is the point. You have the capability, the knowledge, the strategic frameworks, and now, thanks to the scan, you have detailed intelligence on every potential target. I set down my orange juice regret drink. General, let me ask you something. In your entire military career, have you ever encountered an opponent who had your complete tactical database, knew all your weaknesses, and chose not to exploit them? No. There's your answer. We don't want to conquer you. We don't need to. We've already won by being invited here, by you scanning us, by gaining council membership. Military conquest is messy and temporary. Economic integration is clean and permanent. Why bomb your cities when we can open McDonald's franchises there instead? The jellyfish alien pulsed something that didn't translate, but Thrax made that clicking laugh sound again. The human is correct. They have already achieved strategic dominance without firing a shot. Violence would be redundant. Exactly. See? The general gets it. However, Thrax continued, this does not change the fundamental problem. The Council cannot permit a species with complete intelligence access to retain that information. You understand this? Yes? I pulled out my phone again. New message from Hayes. Whatever they're offering, negotiate for double. And Perican validation. Let me guess, I said. You want us to delete everything we downloaded? That would be ideal, Thrax said. And if we say no, then we have a problem. Cass finally sat down, her tail coiled beneath her. Jack, please, there has to be a compromise. The Council can't let this stand. But they also can't take action against Earth without triggering the exact conflict we were all trying to avoid. You've created a stalemate. A stalemate with excellent packing, I said, checking my messages again. Thrax leaned forward. What would humanity want? What would make you willing to delete the acquired intelligence? I pretended to think about it, even though I'd been considering this question since the scan finished. Full Council membership. Not provisional, not monitored full voting rights, immediate trade access, and technology sharing agreements. That's extortion, the jellyfish pulsed. That's negotiation, and one more thing. What? Velcrum's voice came through the door's intercom. Apparently he'd been listening the whole time. Parking validation. The rates at this station are criminal. They reconvened the full Council 30 minutes later, which in galactic time was apparently a speed record. Velcrum looked like he'd aged several years in the last few hours, his purple skin now carrying a sort of resigned gray tint. The Council has reviewed humanity's proposal, he said, somehow making the word proposal sound like hostage situation. Before we proceed, I must clarify several points. You claim you will delete all acquired intelligence data in exchange for full Council membership. That's the offer, I said, standing in the center of the chamber. They'd removed the crown thing from my head, but I could still feel the phantom cold jelly sensation. Full membership, complete trade rights, technology exchange programs, and parking Oh, and we want a seat on the security subcommittee. Absolutely not, Velcrum said immediately. Counteroffer. We keep all the data and promise to only use it for educational purposes. General Thrax made his clicking sound. The human is bluffing. Am I, though? I pulled up my phone. Because according to my messages, Earth's military analysts have already found 17 critical vulnerabilities in Council defense networks, 43 exploitable weaknesses in member species' planetary shields, and something about the Zent's seventh head being decorative. That seems rude, but I'm told it's militarily significant. The Zent ambassador suddenly woke up. All 7 heads snapping alert. 6 heads glared at me. The 7th head just kinda wobbled. This is blackmail, the Luminar chimed in. Literally. This is diplomacy. Blackmail would be if we threatened to release this information publicly. We're not doing that. We're reoffering to delete it in exchange for what we came here for in the first place. Membership? You get your secrets back. We get to join the cool kids club. Everyone wins. Kesser is a claw. I wish to speak on humanity's behalf. Ambassador Kessu cannot seriously be supporting this. Velcrum started. I absolutely am, she interrupted, rising from her platform. Let's be honest about what happened today. Humanity didn't attack us. They didn't sabotage our systems. They didn't even plan this. We scanned them using our technology, our protocols, our security, and they proved that our systems weren't as secure as we believed. That's valuable information. They stole our military secrets. The jellyfish alien pulsed. They exploited a vulnerability we didn't know existed. Kess countered. Would you prefer to learn about this flaw from a species offering to delete the data, or from an actual hostile force that won't be so courteous? Murmurs rippled through the Council. Velcrum's 6 arms crossed in what I was learning was his thinking pose. Ambassador Kess raises a valid point. However, granting full membership under these circumstances sets a dangerous precedent. Does it, Primera? Ask it. Because from where I'm standing, we just demonstrated that humans are clever, resourceful, and capable of strategic thinking at the highest level. Aren't those the qualities you want in council members? You demonstrated that you are dangerous, Velcrum said. We demonstrated that we're effective. There's a difference. Dangerous would be if we'd used this information already. We haven't. We're offering to delete it and pretend this never happened. That's not dangerous. That's remarkably generous. General Thrax stood, his massive form drawing every eye in the chamber. I support humanity's membership. The chamber erupted, aliens shouting, translators struggling, lights flashing in what I assume were expressions of outrage. Velcrum raised all 6 arms for silence. General, you cannot be serious. I am entirely serious, Thrax said calmly. Humanity has demonstrated strategic capability, technological adaptability, and political sophistication. More importantly, they have shown restraint. They could have weaponized this information. They chose negotiation instead. These are the qualities we claim to value in the Council, are they not? But the precedent, someone started. The precedent is that species who prove themselves worthy of membership receive it. Thrax interrupted. Humanity has proven themselves in a most unexpected way. That does not make them unworthy. It makes them interesting. I was starting to really like this giant mantis tank guy. Velcrum looked around the chamber, gauging reactions. Most of the council members looked conflicted. Some looked angry. A few looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. The Zent's 6 conscious heads were arguing with each other while the 7th just wobbled. There is another consideration, Kess said quietly. Humanity knows. We're afraid of them now. If we reject their membership after this, what message does that send? That we only accept species we can dominate. That fear precludes partnership. That fear is justified. The jellyfish alien pulse, perhaps, Kess said. But fear-based decisions rarely lead to good outcomes. I vote for humanity's acceptance. As do I, General Thrax said. One by one, other council members began speaking. Some voteth, yes. Some voteth, no. Some abstained, which seemed like the coward's way out, but I kept that opinion to myself. Finally, Velcrum sighed, a sound like air escaping from a balloon shaped like disappointment. Very well. By a margin of 29-16 with 2 abstentions, the Council accepts humanity as a full member species, with conditions. Conditions. Primera, ask it. You will delete all acquired intelligence data within 48 Earth hours, with verification from our security teams. You will submit to monthly security audits for the next 5 years, and you will attend a 12-week seminar on appropriate data handling protocols. The seminar is non-negotiable, Velcrum added when I opened my mouth. Fine. Deal. We accept. Velcrum produced a holographic contract that immediately expanded to roughly 400 pages. Please review the membership agreement. You have 72 hours, too. Looks good, I said, signing it with my phone. Oh. And about those loopholes in Section 47 and Section 193. We'll try to be respectful about exploiting those. There are no loopholes. And Velcrum pulled up the document, scrolling frantically. His purple skin went gray. How did you find these so quickly? Speed reading is a required skill for human diplomats. Usually because we're trying to figure out what we signed after we've already signed it. Kess was trying very hard not to laugh. I could see her tail twitching in what I was now certain was reptilian amusement. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humanity, Velcrum said, sounding like he'd just invited a tiger to a sheep convention. May you prove less catastrophic than I anticipate. We'll do our best, I said, grinning. Or worst, we're flexible. 1 week later, I was back on Earth in Director Hayes' office, which had significantly better furniture than the Galactic Council, and only 1 species present. Hayes sat behind her desk, a grin on her face that suggested she'd been waiting to have this conversation. "So," she said, "you accidentally conquered the Galactic Council?" "I prefer enthusiastically negotiated membership terms. Jack, we've had 73 formal complaints filed against humanity in the last 6 days. 73. That might be a record. What are they complaining about?" Hayes pulled up her tablet. "Let's see. Aggressive trade negotiations, undercutting established commercial contracts, hostile marketing tactics, whatever that means. And apparently one of our corporations tried to franchise a coffee shop on a species that does undrink liquids. In our defense, we didn't know they absorb nutrients through their skin. They filed a complaint because your franchise pitch was too persuasive, and now they're reconsidering changing their entire biological structure to accommodate coffee drinking." I couldn't help but laugh. "Are we sure they filed a complaint and not a thank you note?" "Both, actually. Apparently they're excited, but also terrified." Hayes set down the tablet. "Tell me the truth. Did we really delete all the intelligence data we acquired?" "Of course we did," I said. "Right after we copied everything to the off-network servers on Lunabase and backed it up to the Mars archives and distributed copies to all our intelligence agencies. But technically, we deleted it from the original downloads, so we fulfilled our contractual obligations." Section 47 Loophole. Section 47 Loophole specifies deletion from primary acquisition systems, but doesn't define what constitutes a primary system versus a secondary backup archive. Galactic lawyers are very thorough, but apparently not paranoid enough. Hayes shook her head, still grinning. "You know, they're going to figure that out eventually." "Oh, absolutely. I give it 3 months before Velcrum discovers a loophole. But by then, we'll have established trade relationships, cultural exchanges, and enough economic integration that they won't be able to do anything about it without hurting themselves." "That's remarkably devious." "That's remarkably human," I corrected. "We're good at this. Always have been." My phone buzzed. New message from Kess. "I know what you did. The loophole. Congratulations. You've outnegotiated species that have been doing this for thousands of years. I'm impressed and horrified in equal measure. Also, I made 17 million credits betting on your acceptance. Drinks are on me next time you're at the station." I showed Hayes the message. She laughed. "I like her. She's smart. She's the only one who saw this coming. Apparently she's been betting on humanity for years. Made a fortune on us joining the council. Smart and profitable. My favorite combination." Hayes stood, walking to the window that overlooked the city. "You know what the scariest part of all this is?" "No. That we accidentally proved we could destroy any council member if we wanted to. That we never wanted to in the first place. We just wanted to be left alone. Maybe do some trading. Explore the galaxy. But because they scanned us, because they tried to evaluate our worthiness, they turned us into the one thing they feared most. A species that knows all their secrets and has no obligation to use them responsibly." "Mutually assured dignity," I said, maud but polite. "They created their own nightmare by underestimating us. That's the part I find hilarious." My phone buzzed again. Another assignment. Diplomatic mission to the Kryn Collective. Apparently they wanted to compare notes on aggressive networking techniques. "Hayes, are we the baddies?" "No," she said thoughtfully. "But we're definitely the species that domesticated wolves, invented nuclear weapons, and still somehow decided that our biggest cultural export should be cat videos. We're chaos agents. Jack, we always have been. The council just didn't realize it until they invited us to dinner. Speaking of which, I should probably warn you. The council wants to do another culture exchange program. They're sending ambassadors to Earth to better understand human civilization." "Oh, good. What could possibly go wrong?" "They're starting with Times Square on New Year's Eve." Hayes sat down heavily. "We're going to traumatize them, aren't we?" "Almost certainly. But hey, they asked for authentic human cultural experience. We're just being hospitable." My phone buzzed a third time. This message was from Velcrum himself. Human Jack Reeves. Preliminary analysis suggests you may have retained copies of acquired data through contractual loopholes. While I cannot prove this currently, know that I am watching. Also, congratulations on your membership. May you prove less catastrophic than anticipated. Also, where can I purchase one of your decorative vases? I'm told Earth has many varieties. I showed the message to Hayes. She read it and burst out laughing. He's trying so hard to be intimidating while asking about vases. I know. It's adorable. Should I recommend Pottery Barn? Do it. It's the least we can do. I typed out a response, including links to several Earth retailers with intersystem shipping. As he hit send, I realized something profound. We'd entered galactic politics expecting to play by their rules, and instead we'd accidentally rewritten the game entirely. Not through warfare, not through conquest, but through being exactly what humans have always been. Clever, adaptable, slightly chaotic, and entirely unwilling to take anything at face value. 6 months later, the Galactic Council security systems would be completely overhauled based on vulnerabilities humanity identified. 12 months later, human corporations would have trade agreements with 37 species. 18 months later, the first human-run coffee shop would open on the Council station, and it would somehow become the most popular gathering spot for diplomats across the galaxy. And 5 years later, when the Council finally discovered the full extent of the data humanity had retained, they'd be too economically integrated to do anything about it except file a strongly worded complaint that we'd address in a 12-week seminar on appropriate data handling. Sometimes the scariest thing in the universe isn't the monster under the bed. It's the species that looked under the bed, found the monster, studied it, figured out its weaknesses, and then decided to befriend it instead because friendship had better long-term profit margins. That's humanity. We don't conquer galaxies. We just make them really uncomfortable until they invite us to join anyway. And honestly, that's way more fun.